People swear that Tres Leches cake is on another level, but is that true? Or have we all been fooled by nostalgia?
I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them.
Well, in today's episode, we're going to find out. This is Homemade versus Store-Bought, Tres Leches edition. What's up, everybody? My name's Curtis, and if you've never heard of Tres Leches cake, you're in for a real treat.
But this is exactly what I've been waiting for.
This isn't just any ordinary cake. It is completely soaked with 3 types of milk.
Got milk.
Topped with fresh whipped cream. Hello! And somehow is incredibly moist without falling apart. Well, at least that's the goal.
This hurts. Nothing to see here.
Today, I'll be making a homemade version of Tres Leches and putting it up against store-bought to find out which one deserves your money, your time, and your calories.
Smells chocolatey, eh? Now, eat it.
Now for a brief history. Tres Leches actually translates to 3 milks. It has easily become one of the lead desserts in Latin America. Its exact origin is still up for debate, with countries like Mexico and Nicaragua both claiming it as their own. One popular theory is that it spread across Latin America after canned milk companies printed the recipe on their label decades ago. Wherever it came from, I'm just glad that somebody looked at the cake and thought, you know what this needs? More milk. Now, as always, we'll be scoring this cake up against the homemade in 4 categories with a score between 1 and 5. Appearance, taste, texture, and cost. And whichever cake gets the highest final score wins. You keep track of your score, and we'll compare at the end to see if we're close. So let me know in the comments. Now, enough talking. Let's see if homemade still lives up to the hype, or if store-bought has quietly been winning this one all along.
If you ain't first, you're last.
Let's head to the kitchen and find out. Welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're going to be building a Tres Leches. In front of me I have all the ingredients for the different aspects of this dessert. Right here we have the cake. Now this cake doesn't have any fat, no oil, no butter. That makes it accept the Tres Leches better into the cake itself. Here's the cake. Right here is the Tres Leches, which translates to 3 milks, and we have all 3 milks here. And then right here is our whipped topping ingredients. And we got some blueberries to put on the top, and these came from my blueberry bush that is really putting out some blueberries this year. With all that in mind, let's jump into making this cake first. We got to get in there, get it cooked, and then let it cool completely. Then we'll make our Tres Leches liquid and our whipped frosting and put it together. Then we're going to let it sit up for a while. They recommend 24 hours. I would say a few hours would be enough for it to set up, where we could slice a piece out of the cake and give it a try. So we're going to jump in this, and we'll see you there. Tres Leches cake is a sponge cake soaked in a mixture of evaporated milk, condensed milk, and whole milk, giving it a moist, creamy texture while maintaining a light structure. Its roots can be traced to medieval European desserts, where cakes were soaked in liquids like wine, cream, or custard to preserve stale baked goods. Examples include the English trifle, Italian tiramisu, Portuguese golden soup, and Spanish milk cakes. These techniques were brought to the Americas through colonization and cultural exchange. The modern Tres Leches cake emerged in Nicaragua, where it became a popular dessert by the 1940s and 50s due to the widespread availability of canned dairy products like sweetened condensed milk and evaporated milk, introduced through U.S. trade and commercial expansion. Mexico also claims a version of the cake, with Nestle Mexico promoting recipes on condensed milk cans during the mid-20th century. The cake's evolution reflects a fusion of European, African, and indigenous culinary traditions, combining sponge cake techniques with rich dairy soaking methods. Tres Leches cake became a staple of celebrations such as birthdays, weddings, and holidays across Latin America. Its popularity spread internationally through Latin American migration, particularly to the United States in the mid-20th century, where it gained mainstream recognition in restaurants and bakeries during the 80s and 90s. Regional variations have since emerged, incorporating flavors like vanilla, cinnamon, coconut milk. All right, everybody, we got this cake ready. We're gonna put it in the oven at 350 for 25 to 30 minutes. As usual, we know when the cake's ready when the toothpick comes out clean and it's pulling away from the edge a little bit. So let's get in there and get this cooked. Now we're not gonna make the whipped cream or the Tres Leches liquid until after this thing is cooked and cooled mostly. So that's gonna be a little bit. So we'll get it in the oven 25-30 minutes and then we'll start the next step, while maintaining the signature 3-milk soak. In essence, Tres Leches cake is a culinary bridge between European soak cake traditions and Latin American innovation, shaped by historical trade, colonization, and the commercialization of dairy products. All right, the cake is out of the oven, and what we're gonna do is poke holes in it. We're gonna mix up our Tres Leches mix and then make a whipped topping and put it on top. Once we get done, we'll come back here, we'll do a reveal, then we'll get in there and test it and see which one wins. So we'll see you in just a minute. Its enduring appeal lies in its unique texture, rich flavor, and cultural versatility, making it a beloved dessert across Americas and beyond. Well, there you have it, folks. It's all done. Now it's got to chill for a while. This thing will set up to where you can get the pieces out without it falling apart, but you got to leave it in the refrigerator for a while for it to do that. In the meantime, check out this reveal. The verdict. So here we are at the end with our 2 Tres Leches cakes. This one came from the Publix bakery, and this is the one that I made. Now, in a lot of Tres Leches, you'll get the piece of dessert and it'll have some of the milk in it, but I just poured all the milk in mine. It is saturated. We're gonna go ahead and get into the scoring of these, and as you recall, we do a score between 1 and 5 in 4 categories: appearance, taste, texture, and cost. Let's just jump into the first one, appearance. If you see on the store-bought one, they used a piping bag and they just kind of worked the whipped cream on there. It doesn't look bad, but it also looks like it was rushed. The cake itself is only about that thick, but it looks right. It looks saturated in the Tres Leches liquid, and it's a nice light color. It has a little bit of red from the maraschino cherries that they put on it. On mine, I made homemade whipped cream, put it on with a spatula, a little nicer and neater. There's a real nice definition between the cake and where the whipped cream goes on. I put some blueberries. These are off of my blueberry bush. Wanted a reason to use them. It looks also very saturated. I will say when cutting these, this one, the cake seemed a lot lighter. This one seemed a little denser. On the store-bought, we're gonna give it a 2. They really did kind of just rush through this. On mine, I'm gonna give it a 3. It looks like it's supposed to. You got all the contrasts. I'm happy with that score. 2 and 3 on appearance. Next is texture. And I discussed this earlier, just a minute ago, that this one seems more dense, the cake does. And that seems to be the recurring theme when I'm making the cake from scratch. I'm still trying to figure out how to get that really light, crumbly texture in my cake. I'm experimenting, changing fats and doing that kind of stuff. This one, it's sliced right through. The texture on both of them are kind of the same, except this one is way more dense. This one is very light and airy and probably accepted the milk mixture really easily. It took a minute for it to soak in on this one. So on texture, I'm gonna give this one a 3. I'm gonna give mine a 2. So 3 and 2. All right, now the part we've all been waiting for is the taste. So we'll start with the store-bought. If I didn't know that there was milk in that, I couldn't tell you, because I don't know what kind of milk or Tres Leches mixture they use, but it's very muted. The whipped cream tastes like store-bought whipped cream, kind that you get in a squeeze bag that comes in frozen. And the cake is very light and delicate, as I said before, but that's all you can taste is the cake and the whipped cream. Now let's try mine. All right, so everything I said about the density of this cake, I take it all back, because the denseness of it made it really hold on to that Tres Leches mixture, and it's an explosion of milk flavors in your mouth. Whipped cream, anytime you can make homemade whipped cream versus store-bought, I would highly suggest it. Let's get right to the score. Let me eat one of these blueberries with some of this. That's really good. So let's go back to the score. Taste for the store-bought, I'm gonna give it a 2. The thing is not good. It doesn't give off Tres Leches to me. This one, I'm gonna give it a 4. This tastes really good. You get all the flavors. You get the really fresh cream flavor. You get the Tres Leches mix. The cake, once it's saturated, is just absolutely wonderful. And my blueberries are pretty good. That's 4 and 2. In the last category, it's hard to score cost between a 1 and 5, but we'll do our best. This thing, for about 4 slices, was $10, so that's $2.50 a slice. This thing, if you take all the ingredients together, it made a 9 by 13, which means you're gonna get a bunch of pieces out of it. And that whole thing probably costs $20 for everything. If you break it down to about 10 slices, 10 good sized slices, you're talking about $2 a slice. So $2.50. This tastes fantastic. This is not a value for your money. You're gonna pay more for less flavor. So I'm gonna give this, for the price, a 2, and I'm gonna give this a 3. So that's a 2 and a 3, without having to add them all up. It's pretty obvious which one is the winner. But first, we gotta ask the judge what she thinks. So we'll start out with the store-bought. Here you go, baby. What do you think of that one?
Well, that was disappointing. If nothing had a flavor, that would be it.
Flavorless, as I said. Just kind of a muted thing. You're absolutely right. Now, let's try Daddy's. What do you think of that?
Yum, I'm starting to think you might be able to cook. Nah, you still stink at it.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I've never made Tres Leches. That's the recurring theme here, is I haven't made these desserts before, so I'm pretty proud of the way that turned out. But overall, even with Piper's judgment, homemade wins again. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming along. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you're keeping score yourself, what you would score these in the comments. Stick around next week. We'll have coconut cake. We're doing our coconut cake up against a Pepperidge Farm one, which was recommended to me by one of my coworkers saying that they made a really good coconut cake. I'm gonna make one from scratch, homemade, and we're gonna compare it to the box. Well, that's all we have for today. Appreciate you coming along and spending this time with us. We'll see you guys on the next video. Tell them bye, Piper.
Bye. See ya.